Welcome to r/malicious compliance, where we share stories of people conforming to the letter, but not the spirit of a request. And today we have 3 great stories, so subscribe, hit the like button, and let's begin. The first story. Sales rep blows up phone and tries to go over my head to get me to prioritize his low-dollar sale over a project for my VP and CFO. The second story. After months of being treated poorly at McDonald's, a girl sends a polite resignation email, triggering multiple calls from the store manager. The third story. Working at a truck stop, a truck driver got upset over 2 cents extra per gallon and demanded fuel be removed from his tank. Today's first story is, by the end of the day? Sure, by the end of my day. This happened about 4 years ago now at a job where we were severely understaffed. I was on a team of 5 analysts, 1 senior, 1 mid-level, which I had recently been promoted to, and 3 entry-level. At this time, they had just replaced my open entry-level position, and I was training her in addition to carrying some of my work forward to my new position. You always get screwed like that with internal promotions. And then our workloads were just unreasonable in general. I easily put in 70-plus hour weeks. One of our responsibilities was creating quotes for our sales team to provide to customers. A single quote generally didn't take you long, but the volume was huge. Our service level, officially, was to turn over requests in 2 business days. 1 busy day if it was high priority. 1 person was out for the week and my new girl couldn't do things unsupervised yet, so we're only keeping our heads above water by me working until 11 p.m. or later. 1 sales rep was being extra high maintenance. Salespeople are generally type A, and I can handle that no problem. But over the course of 2 days, he was constantly calling and emailing for changes for a customer. I got an important project for a $500,000 margin analysis from our CFO and VP of sales that had to be done ASAP, which meant his 80th request to make a tiny change on a $20K quote was going to have to wait, like a few hours. I have a solid track record and relationship with the sales team for always doing my best to help them and get things done. And so they're usually very respectful when I say I can't do something immediately, because it means I truly must have something big happening. This guy was just not taking it that day. He kept emailing and I wouldn't respond. So he started calling. So I stopped answering. Then he started calling the front desk to be transferred to me so that I wouldn't see his number. Stopped answering that too. Started calling from other numbers. I wasn't stupid enough to even pick up at that point. Then he gets his regional director to call me, who explains that this sale and relationship with the customer completely depends on having this within the hour. Guess what? He said that to me yesterday and the day before. No dice. I'm going back to work on my significantly higher priority project. So the director calls our senior analyst, who doesn't know that any of this is going on. He emails me to nicely ask that I do the quote for him. I immediately pick up the phone and explain to my senior what happened, and he's on board with me not rewarding their bad behavior. But he did promise it would be done by the end of the day. Oh, really? Okay, I will do it today. It'll be the very last thing I do before I go home. And guess what time that was? Almost midnight. If this rep and his boss hadn't become such raging jerks about wasting my time and hounding me, I would have done their quote in the late afternoon, as soon as my project was done, just to keep the peace and have goodwill. But no. They insisted on wasting my time, peeving me off, and going over my head. Congratulations, you now get exactly what you were promised. Bonus. No, we didn't lose the customer. We also made more changes to that same quote for at least another month before they made the purchase. That sales rep must have been feeling like a quotaholic with all those requests for changes. I bet they were starting to think they had some kind of superpower where they could control time and have everything done within the hour. But nope, turns out they're just like the rest of us mere mortals, who have to prioritize and juggle multiple tasks. And the nerve of them to go over your head like that. Did they really think that was going to make you work faster? Sorry, buddy, but that's not how it works. Looks like they learned a valuable lesson in patience and respect. And you know what they say, good things come to those who wait, even if it's a month of waiting for changes on a quote. This story highlights the importance of respecting others' time and priorities, and the significance of setting boundaries and sticking to them, even when under pressure. The next story is, you're gonna berate me and tell me to get a new job? Fine, I quit. Since my last story garnered some attention, I thought I'd post this one as well. Back when I used to work at McDonald's, they would treat me so terribly. I would work extremely hard with very little gratitude. I was only on $13 Australian an hour at 15 to 16 years old, but even so, I'd put my absolute all into what I did. I'd run stock, take orders over the headset while packing orders down the front, rush back up to the booth and cash the orders, etc. We were timed, and my times would always be under the maximum limit, unless we were in a rush. I'd been working there for around 9 to 10 months at this point, and slowly losing my sanity every single shift I did. The managers and staff were terrible, but the worst person was the store manager. She'd get angry at me for things that would be completely out of my control. If a customer changes their mind at the payment window, we need to get a manager to come in and give us a code to remove it from the screen. The managers would refuse to give us their codes to use during a rush, so they had to run up to my booth from the front to get rid of an item from an order. So many times I had customers change their minds at the window, and I'd ask over the headset for a code, and my store manager would scream at me from down the front, then walk up to my booth and berate me for making her use her code, saying, "You need to learn to just take orders right," when it wouldn't even be my fault. She'd also scream at me if I accidentally brought down the wrong stock, or if I was too slow in getting stock. Usually I'd be busy cashing cars and taking orders during the busy rushes. She would even make me come into work on days I requested off due to my hip dysplasia or other back problems playing up, and she would threaten me with getting fired if I didn't come into work, making me work through my pain, so I wouldn't get much time to myself that wasn't just laying in bed at home in pain. So back to the story. After a very long 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. shift, I was up in the drive-thru booth at around 3:58 p.m., 2 minutes before my shift was over. We were dead as we usually were at that time, and I was just kicking around waiting for my shift to end. I got a text from my mom asking if I needed picking up from work, so I took out my phone and texted back a simple "yes please" and put my phone away. At this point, it's important to mention that there was a camera in the top right corner of my booth, so if a manager looked, they could see what I was doing. Not even a second after I put my phone away, my SM started to talk over the headset. Store manager: "Jazz, what are you doing right now?" Me: "Waiting for cars, why?" SM: "That's not a good way to use your time. How about you get off your phone and do what I effing pay you to do, or you can go get a different job." I was really upset. I started to cry but was holding in tears because I didn't want to be seen. She'd called me out over the headset, where everyone else in the store who was wearing a headset, everyone could hear. To add some more clarity as to why I was so upset, there were 3 girls who were heavily favored, and they would often just sit in the crew room for sometimes up to an hour on their phones, and no one said anything to them. They were terrible workers too, but since they were favored, they got the best treatment. When it was time to clock off, I just left and started bawling my eyes out because of the embarrassment. I worked my butt off with no gratitude for months, but the second I text 2 words to my mom, I get scorned. My mom was worried and very angry. This is where my malicious compliance comes in. When I got home, I remembered what she said about finding a different job, so I wrote a very lovely email to the shift manager that went like this. "Hi, shift manager. I've decided after a lot of thought that I'll be resigning from my casual position, effective immediately. I've had a few experiences over the past few months that haven't been very positive, and I believe the best option for me is to resign. I appreciate and thank you for all the opportunities you've given me over the past year or so. Thanks heaps, Jazz." 10 minutes later, I got 3 phone calls from the store manager, but I wouldn't pick up. Then the shift manager also didn't pick up. I was absolutely fuming, so I did what she asked me to do: find a new job. I was told by my best friend who was working at the same store that the store manager had been going around saying I called her terrible things, and that I was a horrible little brat who wouldn't listen to her rules. I laughed and said, well, it's a good thing I'm not working there anymore then. While on my job hunt around 2 weeks later, I got a call from the shift manager saying that the store manager had been relocated, but later fired due to a staff complaint, and wanted to know if I'd come back because of how good a staff member I was. Due to the lack of work at the time and needing money for teenager things, I went back and did the worst job I possibly could, basically just screwing everyone around and being a lazy POS. Edit. This was because I'd been called and asked to come back with promises that things have changed, and the new store manager would be better. Being 16, I fell for the corporate talk, and I went back, which resulted in them treating me even worse, and even refused to give me the day off for my grandma's funeral. They screwed me around, so I screwed them around in return, while looking for a new job. Then quit again 2 months later for my current job at a Mexican place. The best part was that I put the store manager down as a reference, and when my employer contacted her about me, she hung up the phone on them. I explained what happened and we all laughed and I got the job. F McDonald's. It is unfair and demotivating to see other workers getting better treatment and recognition despite poor work performance, while hardworking and dedicated workers are ignored and mistreated. The author's experience of working at McDonald's as a teenager is a clear example of such a scenario. The author's SM was completely unreasonable and abusive in her treatment towards the author. The author was working hard, giving their best and meeting the required targets, but still being criticized and yelled at for things out of their control. The SM's outburst over the headset in front of the other employees was humiliating and demoralizing for the author. The author's decision to quit was a brave and empowering move. The author chose not to endure any more mistreatment and quit immediately. The email resignation was a very professional and polite way to quit. The fact that the SM was trying to call and the shift manager trying to persuade the author to come back after they quit shows how valuable the author was to the company. This story teaches us an important lesson about treating all employees equally and recognizing their efforts and contributions. Favoritism can create a toxic work environment, leading to a demotivated workforce and high turnover rates. A happy and motivated workforce can lead to a higher productivity and better customer satisfaction. The last story is, your time is worthless and your math skills ain't great either. Many years ago, I had a college job working at the same place my dad did. My job entailed filling up 18-wheelers from 3 p.m. to 11 p.m. every night 40 hours a week. You meet some interesting people that way. Some truck drivers are the nicest people you'll ever meet. Some, well, there's a reason they drive a truck, as it has to be one of the most socially isolating jobs in American society. Save maybe a farmer working solo in a tractor for days on end. So a truck driver rolls in and I proceed to do my job. Write down vital info like plate number, unit number, trailer number. Thump the tires and visually check for tire issues and any other obvious maintenance needs. Check the oil, wash the windshield, add fuel. Sometimes the driver would give you a direction on things. Don't touch my windows, I use Rain-X, only put 50 gallons in, etc. In this particular case, I pumped 97 gallons in, and the driver went in to pay, and whatever else he needed to do at the truck stop. That's when the situation blew up. Apparently he lost his stuff over using an out-of-network card that cost him a whopping 2 cents more per gallon. He went round and round with the fuel clerk to no avail, and finally I was summoned to the desk. We were to remove the fuel from his tanks. He was not going to pay such a vast sum, and wanted to prove a point. So we summoned my dad from the shop. Mind you, this was a huge money loser for him. I was paid hourly, but he was a diesel truck tech, and paid on commissions on things he did. Pumping fuel out of a jerk's truck paid exactly $0, but you do what has to be done. So he brings the service truck up and we proceed to slowly pump fuel using a 12-volt pump out of the truck's fuel tank. Mind you, the pump that we were using was not exactly fast. Added in the constant stream of expletives from the foul-mouthed trucker, it was not exactly a fun job. Finally, after an hour and a half of listening to him, we had transferred the fuel out of his truck and into 2 drums. As he roared off into the distance, I asked my dad, did he seriously waste all that time and energy over 194? I can't believe how much a fuss people make over a little amount of money sometimes. Dad looked at me. For the first time in an hour and a half, he smiled. He said his time might be worthless to him, but his math skills aren't that great either. He bought 97 gallons, and we pumped 2 55-gallon drums full while he watched. And sure enough, we had. I guess that trucker wasn't just hauling goods. He was also carrying a whole lot of manager and bad math skills. Maybe next time he'll think twice before making such a big fuss over a measly 2 cents per gallon. Or maybe he'll just stick to driving and leave the math to the professionals. Don't forget to hit the like button to support the channel. Thank you for the support.